Solo traveling, overcoming fear of the unknown, stories of courage beyond comfort zones. I have spoken to many people who have expressed fears of solo travel. The irony of it is that, increasingly, solo travel is inevitable, so the need to embrace it becomes more important. I get it. Fear of the unknown is one of humanity's most universal struggles. It is a natural response to uncertainty, rooted in our primal instincts to survive. Yet, stepping out of our comfort zones often leads to profound growth, unanticipated joy, and unforgettable memories. The world brims with stories of ordinary people who took extraordinary steps to embrace the unknown, traveling solo, immersing themselves in foreign cultures, or simply trying something new. I have learned to overcome fears, embark on life-transforming adventures, and breathe again. I am not oblivious to the risks associated with solo travel, but those risks are no different from the risks associated with everyday life. If the most outstanding achievers in history were overly concerned about risks, all the great innovative accomplishments we now have would never have happened. It is wise to consider the risks associated with all that we do and mitigate against them, be prepared for them, or outrightly avert them as much as possible. What has helped me with my solo adventures has profoundly and most positively changed my life in its totality. I want to share some stories of solo travelers who have inspired me over time. I hope they help you in your quest as a solo traveler, now or in the future. These stories inspire us to face our own fears and embark on adventures that redefine who we are. Number 1. Traveling alone, a leap into independence. When Beth boarded her flight to Tokyo, her hands trembled with a mix of excitement and dread. She had never traveled alone before, let alone to a country where she didn't speak the language. Her friends had called her bold, her parents called her crazy, but Beth called it necessary. For years, she had dreamed of seeing Japan's cherry blossoms, exploring bustling cities, and savoring authentic sushi. The only problem, she had no one to go with. Her first day in Tokyo was a blur of wrong trains, misplaced maps, and awkward hand gestures. At one point, she found herself in a small ramen shop where the menu was entirely in Japanese. The chef, noticing her confusion, smiled and motioned for her to sit. He brought her a steaming bowl of ramen and said, "Enjoy." That simple moment broke the ice. By the end of her trip, Beth had made friends with locals, learned basic Japanese phrases, and gained a newfound confidence in navigating unfamiliar places. What had initially terrified her became one of the most empowering experiences of her life. Number 2. Trying new cultures. The taste of transformation. Sometimes, stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't require a plane ticket, just an open mind and a willingness to say yes. For Kevin, that moment came when his new colleagues invited him to their annual potluck dinner. As an introvert who often avoided social gatherings, Kevin hesitated, but the invitation promised dishes from around the world, cooked by colleagues from diverse cultural backgrounds. At the potluck, Kevin found himself staring at a dish labeled fermented shark, a delicacy from Iceland. The mere thought of eating it made his stomach churn, but his colleague Bjorn encouraged him to try. "It's an acquired taste," Bjorn laughed. With his heart pounding and every instinct screaming no, Kevin took a small bite. To his surprise, the taste wasn't as horrifying as he'd imagined. More importantly, the act of trying something so far removed from his culinary comfort zone opened a floodgate of curiosity. By the end of the evening, Kevin had sampled dishes from Ethiopia, Vietnam, and Greece, each bite expanding his world just a little more. That potluck became a turning point for Kevin. He began seeking out new cultural experiences, from dance classes to language exchanges, and even booked a trip to Iceland to visit Bjorn's hometown. The fermented shark had been a gateway to a richer, more adventurous life. Number 3. The thrill of the unfamiliar, a wild adventure. For some, facing the unknown involves a literal leap. That was the case for Joyce, who decided to celebrate her 30th birthday by skydiving. The idea had first been planted years ago during a conversation with a thrill-seeking friend. At the time, Joyce had laughed it off, declaring herself far too cautious for such an endeavor. But as her milestone birthday approached, she couldn't shake the feeling that she needed to do something bold, something to shake her out of her predictable routine. Standing on the edge of the airplane's open door, 10,000 feet above the ground, Joyce questioned every life choice that had led her to that moment. Her instructor's voice cut through the roar of the wind. "You ready?" She wasn't. But before she could back out, they jumped. For the first few seconds, sheer terror gripped her. Then, something incredible happened. As she free fell through the sky, the fear dissolved into exhilaration. The view of the sprawling earth below, the rush of the wind, and the sense of complete surrender combined into a moment of pure euphoria. When Joyce's feet touched the ground, she felt invincible. The jump had been about more than adrenaline. It was a lesson in trust in others, in herself, and in the beauty of letting go. She carried that lesson into other areas of her life, taking risks she would have once avoided and embracing challenges with newfound courage. Number 4. Finding humor in the unexpected. Not every venture into the unknown is dramatic. Some are downright hilarious. Take Jesse, who decided to join a salsa dance class despite having two left feet. His first class was a comedy of errors. He stepped on toes, turned in the wrong direction, and narrowly avoided knocking over his instructor. But instead of feeling embarrassed, Jesse found himself laughing along with everyone else. One evening, the class decided to perform at a local festival. Jesse, still far from graceful, hesitated to participate, but his classmates encouraged him, reminding him that it wasn't about perfection, it was about having fun. The performance was chaotic, with missed cues and offbeat steps, but the audience's cheers and Jesse's own sense of accomplishment made it all worthwhile. That salsa class became more than just a hobby for Jesse. It became a metaphor for life. He learned that it's okay to stumble, that laughter is often the best response to failure, and that stepping out of your comfort zone can lead to unexpected joy. The ripple effect of courage. What makes these stories so compelling is their universality. Whether it's traveling alone, trying new foods, jumping out of airplanes, or dancing despite a lack of rhythm, the underlying message is the same. Fear of the unknown is natural, but it doesn't have to hold you back. Each act of courage creates a ripple effect, inspiring others to take their own leaps of faith. Beth's solo trip to Japan inspired her younger sister to study abroad. Kevin's willingness to try fermented shark encouraged his shy cousin to join a cooking class. Joyce's skydiving adventure became the catalyst for her best friend's decision to quit a job she hated and start her own business. And Jesse's salsa mishaps, they turned him into the life of every party, proving that humor and vulnerability are magnetic. Stepping into your own unknown. So how do you overcome your fear of the unknown? Start small. Say yes to an invitation you'd usually decline. Try a dish you can't pronounce. Sign up for that class or event that intrigues you but makes you nervous. The key is to take that first step, no matter how tiny it may seem. Each step builds momentum, and before you know it, you'll find yourself standing in places you once thought unreachable. Life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. It's where growth happens, where connections are made, and where the most memorable stories are born. The unknown isn't something to fear, it's an invitation to explore, to discover, and to live fully. So go ahead, take the leap. The world is waiting.